And now, Deep Thoughts by Brad and Gary.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And I'm Bob and Ray.
This week on Deep Thoughts, we're talking about Bob and Ray, Jane, Laraine, and Gilda, which originally aired on March 31st, 1979, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
This show aired in place of Saturday Night Live from Harrisburg.
That is true. It's true. I mean, we laugh. It is funny, but so we mentioned in the Richard Benjamin episode, it had been a few weeks since that incident, but this particular episode, like you said, when this aired, this was only 3 days after 3 Mile Island. Like, people were still evacuating.
It's crazy.
They didn't know what the hell was going on. So I feel like it's actually a really ballsy, it's a ballsy move to put out there. No,
Yeah, I think so. They have a photo of the cast in front of the towers at 3 Mile Island. Yeah.
I never realized it until, since we already did Richard Benjamin, that this came so close to the actual events.
Right.
But yeah, this is our third off week special that they recorded. Second they aired, because Mr. Mike's didn't make it to air. But so we had things we did last summer, Mr. Mike's Mondo video, and now this. Yeah.
I must say, this was my favorite of the three of those.
Well, okay. Low bar. But
By
I agree.
far.
But I agree with you. Low bar. Still low bar, but I agree with you.
Yep.
You strike me as a Bob and Ray kind of guy.
Not sure if I should be flattered or insulted by that.
As you will.
Bob and Ray, we saw them in December on the Elliott Gould episode.
And they were great. They were a highlight of that episode. They were so,
I mean, they were great. They were, it's not like they were new, right? They've been working together for 30 years at this point. So they were, you know, a fine oiled machine at this point.
They really were.
Working together.
Yeah. Like, very much so. Because most of these bits tonight are like Bob and Ray trunk pieces that they've done. Like, they had characters. And so, yeah, very well oiled.
Yeah. But they're good. And I think it's one of those things where you just see that old classic comedy sensibility and timing that they have together. Mm-hmm. That's just great.
Yes, but. Ooh, yes, but. Oh, no, yes, and. That's what I'm supposed to.
No, it's yes and.
Yeah, yes, and. That's close. I will say, though, I did eventually tire of Bob and Ray by the end of the special.
Yep.
It was, dare I say, too much Bob and Ray?
Yes, 90 minutes is a bit much, even with 3 musical numbers from Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. By the end, I was like, okay, we're good here. We've got it. I've got it.
Right. But you easily can see why they were so popular in the 50s and 60s when things were so small, like why they were so great, say, on Ed Sullivan or Johnny Carson. Like, they're great talk show bits. And when we saw them on SNL, because they were a different flavor that episode, outstanding.
Yes,
but
exactly.
As you just said, 90 minutes of the basically same thing. It is a little hard.
Well, and remember too, like, a lot of these bits were old radio bits, so they weren't even TV
that's a good
bits.
point. That's a good point.
Right?
Radio. Yeah. Well, because a lot of them is them sitting down. It's them sitting down talking to each other.
Exactly. It's them sitting down and explaining to you what's happening and why.
It's like they had a podcast and they thought people cared to listen. Just listening to you describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we get into the actual show, how did this even come to be that NBC gave them this time? Do we know?
Well, there's not a lot about this special in particular that you can dig up, but we know season 4, SNL's red hot, and NBC was very leery of giving away the off weeks to something else. So they were trying to keep as much as they could that off week in the SNL family. So, and this is very much in the SNL family. It's shot on 8H. It's not live, but they shot it on 8H. It's directed by Davey Wilson. Gene Dumanian produces it. It's written, in addition to Bob and Ray, Franken and Davis, and Matt Newman is a writer on it who will go on and write for season 5. So it's very in-house. You know, it's a very in-house piece. I mean, obviously Jane, Laraine Gilda. And I think we touched on it in that Elliott Gould episode. Obviously, the people of SNL are fans of Bob and Ray. And so here is an option for us to highlight them and give them a showcase, which they haven't had in a while. You know, they hadn't been around doing a lot of TV and in the bigger popular culture, I think, at that time. So I think it's really SNL saying let's shine the light on people we really like.
Yeah, give them the stage, give them the time, because we're down. I did find it interesting, like you said, a lot of the writers, obviously the female cast members, the band. Tom Malone was the musical director of this.
So he took over, and Paul's there, right?
It was interesting how involved folks from SNL were in this, because it was really, like you said, a lot of Bob and Ray trunk pieces, and even some of the newer things. It's not like the girls were that heavily involved in this. It was definitely a showcase for Bob and Ray. Yeah, which I think made sense to have the women on and not, say, Bill or Dan or John, because they'd be too big. Yeah. They'd be too big in that setting. And they have totally different sensibilities from Bob and Ray. Right. Whereas the women, they could play off of them much better, I think. Yeah. And that's what they did on their old radio shows. And they had Audrey Meadows was on their show, Cloris Leachman. Like they've kind of had that history of getting some strong female counterparts and playing well off them. Right. And they do, I think, many times tonight play well with the women. On their radio show when they weren't playing the women themselves. Right. Which was a thing that they did. At least they didn't have to be in drag back then. So I guess that's a plus. That's right. It's all radio, baby. Just all they had to do was change their voices. So we did touch on this in the LA Gould episode, but for any diehard Bob and Ray fans that were searching their podcasts and saw Bob and Ray, hello, that's why they tuned in. Hello, yeah, welcome. Hi. Talking to you in the back. Yeah, hi, sir. How are you? Bob and Ray. Wrong podcast. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, those Bob and Ray fans that are really into podcasts. But Bob and Ray started out in Boston, so they were both radio guys in Boston. They got together because they just kind of they amused one another off air. Oh, right. And the station manager was like, hey, he gave them originally a 15-minute show, which then grew. And that's why, like we said, they had been doing this for close to 30 years. So they had it down. Mm-hmm. They had their bits. They had their timing with one another. And you can just see it the entire time. When it was just the two of them, it was almost flawless. Mm-hmm. And then when you brought someone else into it, there was a little stumbling, not a lot, but there were times where it was like, well, wait, who's going where and what when the women were involved? There was a couple stumbles, which was odd since it was taped. I also thought it was interesting. Because there were a couple of times when I was surprised they left like a line or something in. I thought they maybe would have, but maybe they just recorded it to tape. Maybe they didn't do take after take after tape. They just recorded it live and then packaged. They could, because there wasn't that much time off. It wasn't like there was like 2 weeks or anything. I thought it was just recorded live to tape, and that's all they did, because they had an audience there and small audience. Because it felt like did it feel like to you too? They just basically built the sets in front of the previous sets. Like everything was very tiny. Like there was a curtain. Yeah. And that opened up just to like maybe 6 feet and another curtain, and everything just was very tight. It was like they had home base and all the original sets for Saturday Night Live, and they just built these in front of. Yeah. So everything felt very tight. And they don't need a lot. No. Because they are radio guys. That's true. So they had like one sketch maybe? Was that there's like a restaurant sketch or something that was kind of like big in scope. There were extras in the background. Everything else were very small. There was they did have a living room set for the Twins piece. Yeah, but still, that was just twins. Small. In size. Yeah. So this was fun. I mean, this was a good way to show off Bob and Ray. Like you said, clearly the Saturday Night Live team admired them. I think the women even say it at the beginning. Jane's like, I got to listen to them because I grew up in Boston. That's why I was laughing when you were telling their story about being in Boston, because I was thinking, Jane, listened to them in Boston. Laraine had friends who were in Boston who listened to them. And Gilda's from Detroit. Yep. It was fun. That was fun. So the whole show takes place on the Finley Quality Network. They didn't dare bring up NBC. And then it's just a bunch of sketches pieces that they had. Sketches, commercial parodies. You said, I mean, it's kind of like sort of like a Bob and Ray hosted SNL. It's got everything in there, musical numbers, minus a weekend update, really. They have a pseudo news piece, which was one of Bob's characters that he had done in the past, but they had that news piece at Times Square. He's interviewing a guy on Times Square, interviewing Ray on Times Square. I really enjoyed that piece. I think that was around where I started to fade out of the Bob and Ray of it all. That was a Wally Ballou, right?
Yes.
He was Wally Ballou on the scene because that's where he gets his fast breaking news stories by being in the middle of everything.
Right. And like Laraine sets it up, or Jane sets it up, that we can, because we're doing this, we can give you live breaking news as it happens.
Right.
And then they cut to Times Square.
Yeah. And this I thought was really funny because he then interviews Ray, who is a cranberry bog farmer. And while he's interviewing him, there's all of this commotion behind them, sirens, and loud noises.
Gunshots happen at some point, and they don't. Yeah,
all the news is actually happening, and he's focused on interviewing this cranberry bog farmer who has never heard of cranberry juice or cranberry sauce.
He just sold them in boxes as individual cranberries, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It was funny. It took me a little bit to buy into the bit, but it's smart. It's like it's them. It's quintessential Bob.
Exactly. And I thought that was the one, maybe not the one piece, but that was one piece that was very much aided by actually being on video, because you could see the lights flashing and the commotion.
I would also say the Thinly in Focus sketch where Bob is talking to an 11-inch Ray as his guest.
Yes.
Kind of needed video for that. And I thought they did a great job with that. I enjoyed the technical aspect of that, because I thought they very seamlessly worked the green screen well, and had Bob sitting on a set on a desk looking off to his right, and then you had the green screen the image that Ray is in front of a green screen, but he's superimposed on his desk as his guest. And they played, for being, radio guys, as you said, and now working in this video medium, playing off each other, but not really face to face. I enjoyed watching that, because that also came off seamlessly.
It did. Again, like, these guys are pros. There's nothing stopping them. No. They've got it down.
And that was funny bits. He says, "Oh, have a seat on the ashtray," and he falls in the ashtray. And then they do a cutaway to then him on a set with an ashtray. Like, it was done really well.
But he's like, "You got to clean out this ashtray," after he fell into it.
And that was an early sketch. I think it was like the very first proper sketch, I think, because I'm into the Bob and Ray vibe at that point. Like the delivery, the cadence, the deadpan, like it all worked really well. Bob's got great lines where he's, "Well, you must be a golfer. How far do you drive? You must have a miniature golf course, of course." "Oh, I hit it 24 inches once." "Oh, you really got all of it." Like it was early enough in the night that it played well for me.
Yeah. That's where you really appreciated, I think, how funny they were together, because to your point, they're not next to one another having this conversation.
No, it would have been cool, like, if they went to commercial, like they sometimes do, pull back, so you could have seen Ray like wherever he was on the green screen, just in relation. Would have been interesting to see.
Right. They did have a couple of funny pre-tapes in the beginning too. They have the shoelace cleaning bit.
That's funny. The funniest thing about that is it's named like something and Sons, like Friedhoff and Sons, and it's the women are working in there. Yeah. There's like one dude and the three ladies are working in Friedhoff and Sons.
I thought that was really funny. Just the whole concept of it. And then they had the car chase from their new movie that's coming out. They showed a clip.
The movie? It was like a movie. Yeah.
And it's just two cars stuck in traffic.
Like bumper to bumper.
Like really intense music. Yeah.
So silly and quick. Yeah. And then Bob gets caught at because he refused to run the red light. Like Ray goes through a turn and then Bob hits a red light and he stops. He's like, "Arr!" Like he just refused to run it. Yes. Like abiding by laws, he got stopped.
That was fun. There were other pre-tapes that they had, like the message from the Treasury Department.
They had a lot of little stuff, like interstitials, like quick, like bumper sort of things. Like there was like a hot toast stand at one point, and like all these like kind of quick little things. Yeah.
They went to the convention, the Start Your Own Business convention.
Oh, right. That was funny.
Later in the night.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That felt very Gary Weiss to me. I felt like you liked that one. I actually did write that down. Like, Gary must like this. Because it's like people on the street, the interacting of people on the street kind of a thing, like normal people.
Yeah. Well, and they're asking them legit questions like, how much do I have to buy in for this? Yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought they were good with that.
Ray did a very good job of being believable. There's like a disco guy who sells you a disco set for $12,500. And Ray is like legit, like asking him questions and like trying to figure it out about the DJ. There's little, again, always with these guys, little subtle comments and asides that are really, really funny.
Yeah.
There was like a food making
Very
thing on
funny.
that thing that was so bizarre. And like Bob and Ray
That
were
was
total straight faced going through it. It was hilarious.
And then they give him a sample, and Bob's like, "Yeah, it's too hot to taste."
But
He
doesn't
took
he
a
say
bite.
he's like, that's delicious. Oh, it's too hot to taste. Like,
Yes, yes.
they had a great sketch with the ladies you mentioned, I think earlier, the twins. They played twins, which again is characters they did in the past. But I really liked watching them. They do like literally the same dialogue. Just Bob is like a syllable or two behind Ray. And it's pretty amazing. They do an amazing job in this sketch.
Clyde and Claude are their names. This reminded me of a bit that Fred Armisen would do, I guess with Kristen Wiig, where they would try to time things and she would have to say exactly what he said.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. Like Ray was leading the conversation and Bob was just saying exactly what he said right after him.
Yeah, they just know the words. Where the Fred Kristen one is like it plays off. She doesn't know the words, so she's playing catch up.
But that's even like some of it because if you watch Bob in that, I even thought maybe he doesn't know what Ray is going to say because it felt like he was.
I don't know because he hits the pauses exactly right too, like the and ahs and like that is a very fun sketch. Very good. It was. They did a great job. Really,
Jane and
really
Gilda are both named Patty.
Right. They can never, the brothers never leave each other. I was wondering how it was going to end because I was like, how the hell do you end this sketch? Did you?
I mean, I thought
it was funny.
Worked.
Where Jane gets Bob right out of the room. They go into the kitchen.
And Gilda asks Ray to come to something. And then Bob comes out of the kitchen and answer at the same time. Yeah. As to why he can't do it. Yeah. I thought that was fun. I thought that was a fun out.
That was good.
They had another good sketch with the ladies, the spelling bee. Gilda and Jane are asked to spell very difficult words.
That was a good one. That was very good.
And then they would be off by one letter, but the letter was so absurd. Yeah. And then Bob and Ray just laughed at them in their face.
But not at the top. They built to the laughing, which I liked because the first one, so as you said, Gilda gets Paleolithic, Jane gets interfenestration, and then Laraine gets who. And Gilda starts to complain, and Ray's like, "Give her a chance, Mrs. Kaplan. Stop arguing."
I like when they cut off Jane, and she was close to getting it right, and he was like, you're going to misspell it. I could tell.
Yeah, you were going to spell it wrong. I could tell. And then they go to Laraine.
Oh, that was so funny.
The opposite of near, far.
And they played Bob and Ray, but they used each other's names. Did you notice that in that sketch?
I did not notice that, no.
Because at one point, Ray says, "Is that right, Ray?" And Bob goes, "Yeah, that's right, Bob."
Oh, no, I missed that one.
That was good.
What else? They got a running gag that if you could rename the capital of Pennsylvania, you could get $1 billion. So they started in the opening, and then like midway through the show, they do an update. Like, well, it's all still here. He's like, "Is it? I don't know. You should count." And so
it was this morning.
Yeah. And then at the end, they're like, "Well, no one called in, so I guess we don't have a winner." They start throwing them
putting in their pockets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Again, there was another bit thinly focused on animals where Ray was interviewing Bob, and Bob would answer things, and then Ray would ask a different question, but about what Bob had just said.
Right. Like literally the last sentence. Bob would say, Ray would be like, "But tell me, isn't it true that you could do this?" And he's like, "Yes."
"Where are kimono dragons from?" And he just looks at him exasperated. It was, it was fun. And the two of them together is just, their timing is perfect.
This is another one of their old routines. It's you can tell it's so good. Yeah. He goes on for like a minute talking about how they're at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. And then Ray, "So if we have the kids and we want to take the kids to see these kimono dragons, is there anywhere we could take them?" He's like, "Yes, the National Zoo."
They had a live sketch between the two of them where they actually had a set that was like a takeoff of Dragnet called Squad Car 119. And they were in a car.
This is the last third where I definitely I was getting my Bob and Ray fill at this point because it's every sketch is the two of them or some variation of the two of them. And that's what this one is. And they're talking about orange duck. And
have you ever seen an orange duck? That was too much for you. At this point, you were ready to check out.
At this point, I was. I think there's only like 20 minutes left. There was a funny visual in this, though, where because they go Well, they go to an apartment, right? Because there's a murder scene. And there's a kind of funny wordplay that I wanted to get into, but yeah, I was kind of tired at this point, where Ray picks up the glass and he notices the fingerprints and it's Bob's fingerprints. And he's like, well, of course they're my fingerprints. I just gave you the glass. He goes, well, they're on the glass. You are a suspect. Where were you at 3 o'clock?
Oh, that's
today?
not going to look good in court.
Yeah. But I don't remember how they got to it. But Gilda was arrested for something. Was she arrested for that crime? Because Gilda's standing in front of like one of those things with the height, and they talk about how they didn't have the evidence, so she had to walk away. And Gilda just has this laugh and runs off camera. And that I thought was hilarious watching Gilda.
But we didn't see any of that. That was just like exposition that happened. And then we cut to Gilda at the lineup piece.
Right. I'm just saying the shot of Gilda, her reaction just running off, I thought was the funniest bit of this sequence.
Because that got you from them in the squad car to them in the apartment itself.
Oh, that's right. Okay, right.
I think. Yeah.
Right.
I was starting to fade there too.
I know. It was rough because it was just so much of them.
It was. And while I enjoy them, it was, this is why they only had a half-hour radio show.
No, that's why. And I could see why they were really very popular, like radio and even on television in the 50s, half hour. Yep. Amazing guests on talk shows. Like they come out and do an amazing 5-6 minutes. But I mean, we would be remiss if we did not talk about, I would say, the highlight of the episode.
Their musical number?
Yeah. Bob and Ray singing Do You Think I'm Sexy?
Yeah, with the ladies.
Which, hey, the ladies sing. It's always stellar when the ladies sing.
I'll tell you, every time the ladies sing, I appreciate Lorraine's voice more and more. Like, I think Laraine has the best voice of the three of them, and I think she's really good.
I think in general she does, and she definitely sounded the best of the three in this number, yeah.
And this was fun because they sang the verses. They would rotate amongst the verses, and then Bob and Ray would sing the chorus of Do You Think I'm Sexy?
Dude, I even wrote it down. This is fucking hilarious. This is brilliant. And so it starts on a black stage, and the two of them are sitting down a la Roger Crawford in their big armchairs. And then they do a great job when they turn the lights on to reveal they're in the middle of a stage surrounded by the band and the girls. You said Tom Malone's playing, Schaefer's on keyboard, and the girls start singing the voices. And the second those guys, still seated, still deadpan, started singing the chorus of Do You Think I'm Sexy? I get fucking hilarious. It was great.
It was awesome. And they were, even though they were seated and they were singing it, like you said, deadpan and just happy to be doing it. It was great.
The women start doing like a dance routine in the background. Bob and Ray just sit there. It was amazing. And I laughed at the end. So the girls are off to the side, and by the end they take the microphones and they come around and dance behind them and they're singing behind them. And I forget what the line is. It's like, do you think I'm... They get right in between their faces and the guys jump. It's like the most physical they were in the entire sketch or song, number, whatever it is. Unsurprisingly, this one was not written by Bob and Ray. This was from the SNL gang. And apparently they did not want to do this number. This is the only kind of one of the few things I was able to dig up about this special. But yeah, they going in did not like it, did not want to do it. And then I think they saw the reaction everybody gave the minute they started singing. And then they realized, like, then it's like, okay. Because they're one of the chorus, like Ray throws a little aside, like right sugar or something. Like he throws like an extra line in, which is just hilarious.
It was very good.
It was fun to see. It was like the one thing that was kind of out of their comfort zone, or just kind of, as you you laugh, not surprisingly, not a Bob and Ray special.
Right.
Definitely, I could have done with some more of this. I feel like not more musical numbers, but just more maybe SNL mindset or writing with them in it would have been fun.
Well, it was the one thing that was different than all of the other things were typical Bob and Ray. And yes, while I can appreciate that was a lot of just that. So if there were other pieces like this with that SNL sensibility, it may have been better.
Was the last one? Do you know that last thing, one of theirs, that Robin Hood of Sherman Forest, where Bob's playing Robin Hood? Because I only ask because Gilda comes in playing Brunhilde, kind of Theodoric of Yorkish, but they're sitting there siphoning off the money they stole from the rich, and they're only going to give so much to the poor. And Only because, again, there was a set, right? There was like a restaurant
Right.
kind of, or whatever you want to call it at the time. But so there's like extras in the background, and it was like the biggest in scope of what they did, which also made me think maybe that wasn't a Bob and Ray original.
Yeah, I don't know that if it was or not. I don't think so. And I thought because she reprised her Laraine Gilda character, I assumed that it wasn't, that it was something different.
Yeah, and they're playing
But
characters like Little John and
Little Jim,
Jim and Robin Hood. So it's like, okay, so
yeah,
that's most of it. A couple of weird sketches. The jogging pad one was kind of ad. Something about
TV.
Again, this was late in the night. Flat. What the fuck are they called? Anchovies.
And that and the TV jogger where they were like running on pieces of carpet. That one was
I
don't know. So yeah, there were definitely things that didn't even hit liking Bob and Ray, but all in all, I thought it was a lot of fun.
How well did Willie Nelson and Leon Russell hit for you?
I enjoyed that.
Really?
I did. You didn't enjoy it?
Actually, I did overall. I didn't love Willie Nelson doing what Georgia on My Mind by himself.
No.
It was. I liked the barn set. That was nice. They gave him a really nice set.
I did write that down. I was like, why is the set a barn?
But it did kind of fit the show, the vibe. These old bastards on this show, like slowed down, mellow. So imagine my surprise when they did "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" Even though I knew it was coming, but it's like. But I did like the second number when Leon Russell actually came out with them and they did Heartbreak Hotel. That was actually fun. I did like that.
I really liked Heartbreak Hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I could get behind this. I dig it.
I enjoyed seeing them together too. Like I don't think I've ever seen the two of them together in anything.
No. Well, they just had an album out together.
Right.
But no, I agree. Seeing that it's an interesting pairing. Willie Nelson and Leon.
Well, they
Russell.
just put an album out, right?
Well played. Yeah, so they put.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I thought it was ballsy that yes, Leon Russell and Willie Nelson are singing together, and the guitar player felt that he needed to sing.
I wrote the same thing down.
It's like step back, sir.
This guy singing.
Step back, my friend. I actually had a lot of questions during this number. Why is a guitar player singing? Why do you need? There's two bassists. What is that about?
Yep.
And then I'm pretty sure I counted 3 drummers. Like, is this some kind of challenge to the Grateful Dead? Like, what the hell? And it's Heartbreak Hotel. Like, what? Like, I'm pretty sure they recorded it with 3 dudes originally.
Yeah,
but it was fun.
I did enjoy seeing them together, but
it was a
funny number.
It was a very fun number. And then the last number they did together to close the show was the title track of that album, "One for My Baby" and "One More for the Road." I think the album was "One More for the Road," and not a very well received album, I don't believe.
No.
I think it did well in the country charts because, again, at this point, it's Willie Nelson. I think whatever he was doing
I was going to say
big. But and the last song was fine, but I could see how an album of this does not go well.
Sure, it's a fun novelty thing.
Yeah.
But it was fun to see them.
Yeah, it's funny if you have Willie Nelson and Leon Russell performing together, and at the end of the day, my thought is, I really thought the best thing they did was doing Heartbreak Hotel, which is like not what you expect. Agree. You know what I mean? Like not what you would expect from those guys. But
I was happy that they got 3 numbers too, because I feel like, to the point of not needing more Bob and Ray.
Yeah,
I thought it was good to fill that time.
Yeah, what would have been fun? Like a Bob and Ray, like in an SNL sketch. Maybe because you didn't have the writers. Maybe you had Franken and Davis though. But like
But Franken and Davis just kept pitching the Franken and Davis show.
Probably. Bob and Ray are like, do you know who we are? Like we've been doing Franken and Davis before you were born. We created Franken and Davis, you two. Yeah. Take a seat, son. But no, like something with the girl, with the women. I don't know, like a Bobby Farber. And you know what I mean? Like actual characters that the women would do on the show, although maybe they're purposely trying to not be SNL. So there's that too, make it their own thing. But
yeah, it's kind of an interesting line to straddle there, right? Because you're clearly leaning into the SNL of it all by having them there, but then you're also trying to make it something different than that.
And I didn't want it going in. It was only by the end of the night where it's like, okay, that was a lot of the same shit.
Right. Brad, here's a fun question for you that you're going to hate.
Oh, nice.
Do you realize?
I'm telling you right now, the answer is no, but go ahead, continue.
Do you realize that today, you called Bob and Ray old bastards, I think, at one point during this recording?
I don't like where this is going.
Do you realize that we are closer in age to Bob and Ray than we are to anyone from Saturday Night Live at this point in 1979?
No. We're closer to Garrett. Come on. We got to be close to Garrett.
No, we're not.
How old is Bob? Wait. Hold on. How old are Bob and Ray?
At
the answer has to be late
50s.
Has to be late 50s.
56 and 57.
I'm rounding up and taking late 50s. Yeah, okay.
Okay, we're like right between Garrett and them. Yes. But Garrett has nothing to do with this show tonight.
But isn't Garrett in his 40s at this point?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought it was funny.
Maybe not. That is funny though.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Because watching it, I was like, those guys are a lot older than these ladies. Oh, yeah. Wait.
As soon as you made that turn going down that road, I did not like where you were headed.
All in all, I really enjoyed it.
I did too. It's I don't think it's something I would watch over and over again, but it's definitely something to watch. If anybody's out there and hasn't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. You can catch it on YouTube. It's a bummer they didn't put it on the official. I don't think it's on the DVDs. That would have been fun to see.
It is not.
But no, it's definitely worth it. There's good stuff in there. Maybe don't watch it late at night because you will get tired. But there's definitely some good stuff in there. There's some great stuff in there. Do You Think I'm Sexy is hilarious. Yeah. The sketch with the twins where they play the twins is hilarious. Really great.
It's really well done. I even liked the lucky phone call. We didn't talk about it, but the very first sketch of the night where Bob calls Ray in the middle of the night. I thought that was fun.
Kind of goes nowhere. He calls him in the middle of the night to tell him that he wins a Bob and Ray lucky phone call scroll.
Yeah.
That really sets the tone. We should have, because that really does set the tone for the next 60 some minutes of content. It's like, yep, just that's all you got.
Yep.
I was going to say buckle in, but there's no need to buckle in. Just sit back and coast away.
You don't have to buckle for this ride.
No. They do a good nights, very SNL. They come out and do the good nights. And I wrote, I was like, this underscored vibe. Because it wasn't like, good night, thanks, blah, blah, blah. I was like, that's it.
Yep.
I guess we'll see you later. It's like, kind of encapsulates the whole special to me. Like, all right, that was it.
Yeah.
And we'll see you later. Adios.
Exactly. Well, that is it. That was the show.
That is it. But it was like, yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen it, I would go check it out. You'll enjoy it.
And it's one of those things that I don't think you need to set aside the full hour. Maybe watch it in chunks while you're doing something else.
To your radio point, again, like you could do something else in the background and then gander your eyes upwards when you need to, and then look back down to whatever you were doing before. And I'm glad they did. Like you said, I'm glad they did it. It's nice to see the Bob and Ray. I think they learned their lesson, and they're like, maybe we don't need to keep producing all this stuff because this whole off-week special thing does not exist in season 5.
Maybe we should take a lesson.
They eventually get the right idea and start putting in Saturday night's main event. That's what you need in an SNL off week. Thank you, Dick Ebersol. Yet again, praising the work of Dick Ebersol here on this podcast.
That's right. Well, when you're looking for something to watch or listen to, go check this out. It's on YouTube. It's a lot of fun. If you want to take a gander up, as Brad said, feel free to do that.
Gander up. Take a look.
Next week on the early years of SNL, we're talking about season 4, episode 18, with host Michael Palin and musical guest James Taylor.
Gary, I have a special surprise for you that episode.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
I'm excited. I can't wait. Tune in next week and hear what the special surprise is. Until then, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow. Thanks for listening to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please take a moment to rate and review the project wherever you find us. You can also drop us a line to let us know what you liked or didn't and what else you might like to hear in the future at nr4ptproject@gmail.com. The original music for Deep Thoughts is provided by Jacob Spiewak. The announcer is Jason Taylor. And lastly, you can find us on social media everywhere at nr4ptproject.
Did I fuck up that whole outro then? I guess I did.
Boop.